From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your Evening Update.
Kent's Meats and Grocery is much more than a grocery store. We carry a full line of quality meats, local and organic vegetables, and a large variety of fish, Green Mountain Smart Control pellet grills, and a full deli case of sandwiches and side dishes.
Well, we got above normal temperatures here as we go through the rest of the week, this weekend, and probably even going through next week. We got breezy north winds at times. We saw some of that today. We'll see it again, I think, here for tomorrow in some spots here with dry conditions all week long through the weekend, most likely through next week. No major storms, no major heat waves in store for us here as we take you through the rest of the week. And not to mention probably even next week. Here's your neighborhood at a glance. Temperatures could quite possibly reach that 80-degree mark again in the valley. Otherwise, temperatures in the 60s, even some 70s for some of the higher elevations. Modoc County, though, one of the cooler spots, probably somewhere in the upper 50s to low 60s. I wanted to show you the lake levels. This isn't something I don't do on a daily basis, but I wanted to illustrate something because one of our knee-jerk reactions around here in Northern California is when we see these dry and warm spells, our natural reaction is to say, but we need the rain. Well, you know what? We don't necessarily need it. Take a look at this. Now, the lake levels are doing great. They're almost full. We're at 95% full capacity here, Shasta Lake, 7 feet from the crest. Trinity Lake, 84%. Lake Oroville, about 90%. So again, lakes looking good. We talk about our snowpack. This is what helps to keep the lakes full during the summer months. You get that nice trickle. This is our reserve. We'll take a look at the Sierra, Central Sierra, Southern Sierra, basically 100% or higher. With the exception of Southern Sierra, the April 1st average is 98%, but normal to date, 106%. And the statewide average, 105 and 112%. So we can't complain about that. I mean, things are going great, looking good for our snowpack. How about rain for the season? Well, almost all of Northern California is looking at above normal rainfall. Redding, Red Bluff, Eureka, Crescent City, Mount Shasta. Montague is the exception. And what's interesting here is when we look at the drought monitor, which is something we haven't had to look at in a while, but I wanted to illustrate this. Where are we seeing the abnormally dry conditions? Well, that's where we are, around Montague, Eureka, right? And of course, a little bit of sliver out towards northwestern Modoc County. But when we look at all of California, a little sliver down in southeast, and then of course we're seeing worse conditions for places like southern portions of New Mexico and parts of Texas and central United States. But we're actually doing quite well. So again, when we take a look at the conditions out there, we don't have to worry about it. Mother Nature has us covered in the water department so far. We don't have anything to worry about. So what about the future? Can we expect any more rain anytime soon? Well, the answer to that is no. We have basically these storm systems which are riding to our north. That's the heat right here, cooler air to our north. As these storm systems, which are cooler, ride to our north, it flattens out the ridge of high pressure and prevents that heat from moving in. So as a result, yes, we're warm, we're above normal, but we're not looking at 90s and triple digits in the forecast, right? We're looking at actually pretty nice temperatures all in all. Now, you take a look at this storm system, looks pretty impressive. But even this storm, as it approaches Canada and the Pacific Northwest, you see how it starts to kind of just fizzle out? But again, it's riding over the ridge, preventing the heat from really building in. Now, as we go into the second half of the weekend and early next week, we're going to watch a weak trough of low pressure right here. You see that? This is going to bring us cooler temperatures. And when I say cooler, I'm not talking 50s, right? I'm talking about a 5-degree drop. So maybe around 82 degrees for the high on Sunday, and then for the valley, and then maybe down to the upper 70s by the time we get into Monday. So just a slight dip in the temperatures. It's also picking up on a little bit of rain. But one thing to keep in mind, right, is especially with storm systems this week, from this point forward, we're looking at dry conditions. So the atmosphere is going to get drier and drier. So when a weak system like this that is fairly moisture starved, even if it does rain, most likely it'll evaporate before it reaches the ground. So I'm expecting dry conditions with this system. The main impact will be added cloud cover and cooler conditions. Then of course all the rain up here, it stays to our north and pretty much fizzles out as well as it makes its way into landfall. However, we have another ridge of high pressure as that colder air moves out. Monday into Tuesday, temperatures will warm back up again as we go into your Tuesday of next week. Now again, I was talking about the winds, a little gusty at times. Taking you to tomorrow morning, a gusty north wind is a very good possibility. Now, is this going to increase our fire danger? Sure, a little bit. We should probably be a little careful out there, but it's, of course, we're not in the peak of the fire season, so we don't have to worry too much about it. But just note that it will be a bit breezy out there tomorrow morning. It should start to subside by tomorrow afternoon, and not to mention a little breezy out along the coast as well, by the way. We take a look at your Thursday forecast winds, and yeah, maybe a little breezy in some spots, especially to the east, but probably not as bad Thursday is what we'll see here for tomorrow. Now, I want to show you the wave heights because they are still fairly high here as we go into your Wednesday. But the good news is by Thursday, especially if you need to be out on a small boat, we are going to start to see those wave heights begin to drop. So we look at our marine forecast for your Wednesday, north winds at 10 to 20 knots. There's a hazardous seas warning through the evening into early tomorrow morning that should be allowed to expire by tomorrow morning. Of course, more on that coming up on my morning update tomorrow morning, and not to mention on Coffee with Kruger. All right, your temperatures are going to be in the low 50s for your daytime highs, or excuse me, for your overnight lows. Not your daytime highs, for your overnight lows here. And think about this. For your lows tomorrow morning, this is what our highs were looking like on Saturday and Sunday, somewhere in that range, right? So kind of interesting, kind of put things in perspective. But I'm expecting 30s and 40s. For the higher elevations, and probably in the low to mid 40s here along the coast. All right, let's take a look at your Trinity County neighborhood forecast. Yeah, you got those temperatures in the low to mid 70s for the most part for your daytime highs. We take a look at your North Coast neighborhood forecast for southern parts of Humboldt County. Temperatures in the 50s along the coast, low 70s inland. How about 70 out in Smith River, 73 for Gasquet, 60 degrees for McKinleyville and Willow Creek, a high of about 77 degrees. How about your Siskiyou County neighborhood forecast? Well, temperatures mainly in the 60s, although cooler for those higher elevations off to the north and to the east, about 57 degrees for Doris, 58 degrees for McDowell. Looking at your Modoc County neighborhood forecast, yeah, how about upper 50s to about 60, Aden 60, 59 degrees for Canby, as well as Alturas, and 55 degrees in Cedarville. Let's take your Eastern Mountains neighborhood forecast, where those temperatures are going to be in the 60s, even some 70s from the warmer spots like Paradise 71, 70 in Shingletown, but Janesville, a high of about 66 degrees. And your Valley neighborhood forecast brought to you by NorCal Tractor in the upper 70s. But again, if we touch 80 degrees in the Valley, I wouldn't be surprised, all right? So look for a high of about 76 degrees for Lakehead, 79 for Palisadro, and Red Bluff a high of about 78 degrees. Now, looking at your 7-day outlook, not much to talk about here, right? It's going to be the same song and dance for the next 7 days. Temperatures averaging out around 80 degrees, give or take, through the rest of the week and this weekend. There's that slight dip in the temperatures I was talking about on Monday, but then we start to see the temperatures go back up by next Tuesday and Wednesday.